joins the Antisocial Network.
Yeah. Mask up, stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah, right.
That was cool. Austin hit a home run Sunday
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Fantastic.
to right center field over the wall. I don't know if he's ever hit one over the wall before.
It's got the Oppo
All
power
right.
now, right?
The wind was blowing left to right.
Yeah. He's getting bigger. I mean, I probably wouldn't even recognize him anymore. He's probably so big.
He
That's
looks the same, just bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome again to YUH with Lisa, Phil, and Aaron. This week we are speaking to Richard Spegal. He wrote the book. He wrote quite a few books, and he is a fantasy fiction world builder, and that's the kind of thing I love. And he wrote the book we're talking about today is Wolves and Ravens, Book 1. I have read quite a bit of it. I didn't get to the whole thing. I bought it. The rest of the books will be placed in my queue. So welcome, Richard, and give us a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me. I started writing in high school. Right after high school, I joined the military, the 82nd Airborn Division. After doing some time with them, I left active service and went into the National Guard because I wanted to raise a family. It's a little easier for that work, military balance when you're in the Guard. And then I spent a lot of years there. And then in the last deployment we went on, I got injured. I got put into a military hospital for a couple of years, and then it ended up with a medical discharge. But I had already done my 20 years, so I didn't really fight it. And when we originally went to Egypt a couple of years ago is when I started publishing, because I figured I got some time, so let me give it a shot. And then I let that genie out of the bottle. I could not put it back in. So I've been writing like a crazy ever since, and I've been publishing left and right. There's 5 out now. I've got a bunch more books that are waiting in line, and then a whole bunch more needing to be written.
Nice. That type of prolific output, that's must be kind of exhilarating. Letting a lot out that's been trapped inside that dome for a while, I guess, right? Yeah. But so the genre, I saw you on another podcast where you categorize it as dark fantasy.
The Wolves and Ravens, yes, that's considered dark fantasy because of the mature concepts, how brutal it gets, and then in the successive books, it deals with concepts like crucifixion, suicide, rape, things like that, just because of how bad everything is. And normal fantasy can be wonderful, but it doesn't cross that line.
Yeah. So those darker themes, do you kind of leverage your writing off of biographical? I'm not saying that you I don't know what you saw in the Army and all that, but I mean, do you kind of develop your world or your writing style based on biographical things or things that have happened to you personally?
Yes, actually, that does make certain things a lot easier. The reason why the writing gets so dark is because it's realistic. Life isn't rainbows and unicorns. But my own personal history and the struggles that I have is what helps me do it in a realistic fashion. Like I can write and I can detail things in a way that only 2 groups of people can do, with either professionals or victims. Nobody else can actually do it that way. And it just makes everything more realistic.
Yeah. So tell us a little more detail about the Wolves and Ravens book. It's part of a trilogy, but book 1.
And any of your other books for that matter.
Yeah.
Well, the Wolves and Ravens, again, it's a dark fantasy trilogy. It focuses around 3 races, the Wolves, the Ravens, and then regular people are kind of in the middle. And they're trying to figure out what's wrong.
The Wolves and the Ravens get top billing. The people don't even get it in the title.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because people are normal. Nobody wants normal people in a fantasy book. But there was an enormous war in their history where it was just wholesale slaughter for 100 years. And then it just simply ended. and it ended out of nowhere. And the races got together and they wrote the Great Accords. The audience figures out in the very beginning that it was all a setup. Basically, the audience knows that because they read the prologue. But the races and the characters are trying to figure it out. Like, they know the world is wrong. Bad things are starting to happen. There's no explanation. Nobody understands their history, and they're just trying to figure it out. And the whole time they're doing this, they're being watched by celestial beings on both sides. And that's kind of how the trilogy goes. And one of the things that the audience kind of catches on to at some point is that nothing they do matters. Like, they keep kind of winning, but it doesn't matter because everything just keeps getting worse until, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the trilogy keeps going to the extent that eventually the celestial sides clash. And that happens in the third book, and that's when everything comes to a head. That's when that book was hard to write because of how dark everything gets. But that's about. I don't know if I can say anything else without spoiling things, but that's kind of the general theme of the trilogy.
So, does the third book satisfyingly finish, or is it? Is it possible that there will be more?
No, I know when something's done, and I'm not going to ruin what I created by inventing a whole bunch more stories. The conclusion, it's over. There's a little bit of a tiny maybe something might happen, and that's only because I have an idea for some other things down the road, but I'm not going to be able to make those for like years and years. So as far as the story of the trilogy, that's done. At the conclusion of the third book, everything's over. All the questions are answered, etc.
Yeah, and I would appreciate it if you'd take good care of yourself, because two of my favorite authors have passed away, and I am not happy about it.
It keeps happening. It's crazy.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Anne McCaffrey and Piers Anthony.
Well, unfortunately, if we look back at history and we take all the artists that we revere these days, most of them have one thing in common, and they were messed up people. They saw.
I thought you were going to say they're all dead.
Yeah. Well, that too. And they didn't really become successful, most of them, until after they were gone.
Because they saw and heard things differently from most people, but they had the skill to put them in a blank canvas or a blank page or a block of marble, and other people could enjoy the things that they saw, but those individuals were tormented by what they saw. So people like us, we tend to not have long lifespans.
Kind of burn it up while you're here. Kind of, you get all the going to live until I die, right? So I always wondered this about trilogies. When you're starting to work on the first book, and you know that there's a finite ending, do you know how the whole trilogy is going to end while you're constructing that first installment?
Yes and no. All the stuff is in my head all the time. So like all three books were in my head at the same time. So in a general sense, I have an idea. But what is different for me is the characters tell the story, not me. It all grows organically from the characters. So I don't outline anything. I don't do anything. I know there's a trilogy. I know the base idea for each book. But until I start writing, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And it's one of the tenets of war. No plan is fully successful once you meet the enemy.
Right. No plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Right. Thank you.
And that is, I've never thought of that, but that is an interesting way to describe how I write, because no book I've ever planned out has ever turned out the way I planned it. The characters just do their own thing. And what it's writing 101, but it's the mistake that everybody's been making for almost 20 years is that the characters drive the plot, not the other way around. If you have to make your characters do something stupid just for the plot to happen, then you need to change your plot because you screwed up the story.
Right. I agree.
So you probably, as you're writing, you're developing or characters are developing in front of you, I guess, and they come to it comes to a point where it's like, this character would not do that. This character, I'm getting to know this person now, and so yeah, it's kind of interesting how that would happen organically, the way that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that character development is the most interesting and fascinating part of writing and of storytelling in general. A lot of times I'll read or see a television show that's so developed around plot, and the characters are almost linear. They don't really have a lot of depth to them. They don't develop very well, and
Yeah,
it's hard to watch.
You see that all the times these days, especially when, like a few years ago, when they went down that road of just all the protagonists, all of a sudden were females, and they're trying to write strong female characters, and all they did was write perfect females that were like 15 years old. Nobody liked it. They had no character arc. They were just magically perfect from like the first 5 minutes of the movie or a TV show or whatever.
Yeah.
In Wolves and Ravens, the Raven Chin, who starts the book as a princess and she ends up being the Raven Queen, that's a powerful female character. She's perfect in almost every way, but she earns it because the book takes you from like when she's 7 years old. She's a petulant child, and she's basically trained in a horrific fashion every day of her life until she's finally to basically forge the perfect queen. And the audience gets to see the private side where she's breaking down constantly when she's by herself and nobody else can see except for her protector. And that's where every bit of entertainment goes wrong. It's okay for the character to be perfect in public, but the audience gets to see the private side. So if they're perfect on the private side, well, that's a fake character. And then you just lose the audience.
Yeah. Public confidence,
Mary
private.
Sue, kind of.
Please?
I said a Mary Sue, a perfect character.
Yeah.
An overly perfect character. Yeah.
You see these movies where 15-year-old girls are beating up groups of men where each one is like 3 times their size, but the audience didn't get to see them training. So how did this 15-year-old get to learn how to do that? Whereas Chin is trained by her wolf protector every day of her life from age 7 all the way up until, and trained in a horrific fashion. So she earns the ability to be, she's a vicious fighter, but she earns that through her years of training.
Right. Yeah.
And just so you know, the wolves and the ravens, they have like those characteristics of that type of creature. They're not, just for, general knowledge, they're not like, she doesn't have feathers, he doesn't have, big ears and claws. But the wolves are just naturally stronger than humans.
Not in the book you read.
Okay. Well, it's interesting you should say that, and I don't want to spoil anything for future books. But you are, and that actually comes up in conversation. Like the ravens are a race of women who are based on Chinese women.
Yeah.
The wolves are a race of men who are basically just a bit larger, yellow eyes, pointy teeth, pointy ears. But they have conversations like, why are we called this? We don't look like these things. But, that's just how the story begins. That's not how it ends.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
But they don't understand their history. They have no idea why they are the way they are. Like the ravens die very young, and they don't understand why, where the wolves live twice as long.
Right. And so in this story, obviously, if you have, these 3 races, natural tension that develops between them. There's going to be prejudice. There's going to be injustice. So, were you comfortable writing with those themes? I mean, those are. Does that give you an opportunity to use these fantasy characters to really work through some thoughts you have about the state of the world today, that type of thing?
I get asked that a lot. I wrote books to be entertaining. There are some elements that you can that kind of reflect on some things that the real world has seen, but there's always going to be that. The three races agreed to do things a certain way to encourage harmony. And in Raven's realm, where the Ravens are, and it works out that way. But then there's another kingdom where there are no wolves and ravens, and then there's suddenly all this distrust, and the Ravens as a race end up getting they get hunted, they get butchered. They're throughout the course of the book. I guess you could say there is a very large element of racism towards the Ravens. They don't know where it's coming from. The audience knows, because the audience is introduced to the main antagonist on like page 5. So the audience knows where it's all coming from, but the characters don't have a clue, and they're trying to figure this out, and it just gets worse. Like the Ravens are in charge of where they are, and everything is kind of in harmony, but the world as a whole seems to be turning against them.
So you're in Pennsylvania, right? Is that...
Yes, pretty close to the Delaware border, but Pennsylvania, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I was kind of interested in some of your background in the, like the National Guard. You said you were part of a unit called the Bloody Bucket. What was that about?
Well, the Bloody Bucket refers to the entire Pennsylvania National Guard. I don't have a patch close at hand, but the patch for Pennsylvania is the keystone. So it's a black keystone, but it kind of looks like a bucket. And so the Bloody Bucket, that terminology came from like World War II. Every state is different. The Pennsylvania National Guard was well known for being very well trained, as involved in wars and stuff like that, just as much as active service. So they started using the term Bloody Bucket, but it's state specific, not any particular unit.
Okay.
Based on the keystone.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So
now my older brother,
second baseman, the Bloody Buckets.
Who's that, Aaron?
We can start referring to second baseman as Bloody Buckets now.
I like that.
Keystone.
Yeah.
You should discuss that in your next
Closers by Committee.
Closers by Committee podcast.
Our wildly popular baseball program.
Absolutely. My older brother was in the 101st Airborne.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I won't say anything bad about them then.
Yeah, right.
That's okay. We're not talking anymore.
Yeah. Might have a few
things happen, incidents,
Yeah.
They used to be airborne, but they're air assault now, even though they're still called the 101st Airborne.
Oh, okay. Well, this was back in the early 80s. He went in I guess 1980. He graduated from high school in 80. 79, 80.
Well, I don't want to steer too far away from the book just yet. You based it on a short story that you wrote for a girlfriend, right? Is that right?
Did she like it?
Did I say that? How did you guys know that?
I saw it on a podcast.
Oh,
I look at some of your other podcasts.
We deep dive by watching podcasts.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to think that there's these huge, deeper meanings and all this stuff. But yeah, so 13 years ago, I found a girl who did not really speak my language, and I wanted to impress her. So I wrote a 6-page short story called The Wolf and the Raven. I had it translated and I sent it to her. And we're married now, so it worked. And then,
fantastic.
All right.
I always kind of wanted to do something more with that. So I ended up building an entire trilogy out of it. Like people ask me, because the Ravens are a race of women based on Chinese women. And people ask, like, why did you do that? Because the original story was written for a Chinese woman. So
I was going to ask, is that why the Ravens are Chinese?
Yeah, that's exactly why. When in the little short story, when the Raven takes human form, I describe Asian features because the woman I was giving it to was Asian. So then when it came time to write this larger thing, I just sort of went with that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's not like there's no Chinese culture. I just took their women and their language.
Right. Because this is not our world.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I note the names, like for instance, Queen. I'm gonna say Nafeng.
Nanfang, yeah, her mother.
Nanfang. Okay, Nanfang. Yes, I was hoping I was pronouncing that right. I had Shen very wrong. I was pronouncing it more Shen, than Chin. So, you know.
Close
Well, we
enough.
should have went with we're clairvoyant. That's
Thank
how
you.
we knew about the backstory. But
Yeah.
now you have a romantic comedy built right in when you go to do that. You tell
Yeah.
the story of the story.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Yeah, the origin story behind the origin story.
right.
Right.
At some point, I'm probably going to write a prequel to the trilogy, a novel that actually takes place during the Great War. And maybe at the very end of that one, I'll add like an afterword where I actually publish the short story that I wrote that started it all.
Okay, that
Nice.
sounds good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So
Yeah,
this takes place 1,000 years in the past, right?
the Great War does.
The Great War was 1,000 years in the past. That's what I might do a prequel about. But the storyline for the trilogy is 1,000 years after the Great War.
Okay.
hmm
Okay. Got it.
And the big law is that they are not allowed to procreate. They're not allowed to mix the races. And I think that adds to the potential racism in the story.
It's wolves and ravens are not allowed to mate.
Right, right.
And
What about ravens and humans or wolves and humans?
there's no rule about that. In
Okay,
fact,
but does it happen?
It's not pointed out
Mhm.
directly until much later, but if it
Mhm.
wasn't for them mating with regular people, the races would have died out.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Mhm.
the race of man just appeared in the middle of the Great War. Nobody has any answers to any of this. I'm not going to spoil it by giving the answers. All the answers do get answered at some point. But the race of man is in the middle. There's no laws about that. But no wolf and no raven can mate. And the audience knows, like I said, in the prologue, the audience knows that rule was only written because the antagonist was able to influence the minds of the people writing them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the wolves and ravens are incredibly close together. They're as close
Yeah.
as they possibly be.
Makes it amazing that they haven't,
Yeah, because
broken the rules.
breaking that law, even suspicion, would lead to execution. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that none of them know why, and that's one of the big things. Like in the first book, you learn that the ravens, especially the raven queens, have been researching for hundreds of years because it doesn't make any sense. Like the
Right.
war makes no sense, but they don't want to say anything publicly because they don't want to start a new war. And it's in the first book. At some point, when Chin is queen, she runs a test to prove a point to her wolf protector, only so she can point out that this is what we've been researching, and we think that the world is wrong. We think everybody should be fine, but there's another answer. Maybe the war was correct and the peace is wrong. And if we keep pulling at this thread, our races might end up at war again. And she admits that the ravens believe if the world is destined for another war, the ravens are going to commit racial suicide. That's like one of the deepest secrets that she is holding on to, because they have no interest in ever fighting again. They would rather just all kill themselves.
Oh wow. Okay, well there isn't any real, while there are beings that are adjacent to God, there's not really a lot of religion in the first half of the first book.
No, in the first book, it's in there only a tiny bit.
Okay.
A little bit here and there throughout the book. There's an angelic character who has a little bit of time, for lack of any other way of putting it. She does do something extremely important in the book, but it's only a tiny bit. You could say now the Chin and Qatar, the wolf and the raven, they're the primary protagonists. But if you look at the trilogy as a whole, the primary protagonist is that angel.
Oh, okay.
Tiny bit of time in the first book. In the second book, she's a main character right alongside the two of them. And in the third book, it's her show. Qatar and Chin, their character arc ends at the end of the second book. In the third book, they're kind of along for the ride. The angel's character arc goes from the first book all the way to the end of the third book.
Okay.
Interesting.
Cool. Okay.
Would you say that your book or your trilogy has a particular. You said there was some indecisiveness on whether or not the war was good or bad. Do you say that it has an overall anti-war theme or not?
No, not at all. It's just in they have information about what happened during the Great War. And if they are to believe that information, all three races were fighting for no discernible goals. The wolves and the ravens were slaughtering one another, not just to kill each other, but to kill each other in the worst possible ways. The ravens were able to still use their magic, and they would burn wolves to death as slowly as possible. The wolves would actually eat the ravens.
Oof.
Yet all of a sudden the war ended, the peace was signed, and within one generation they were the closest of friends. So that doesn't make any sense. That is completely senseless. And that's the rate.
Yeah, well, my other thing there is you're not allowed to mate. Now go be best friends. Be around each other constantly.
Because the piece just said that the ravens were in charge, the wolves were supposed to protect them, and then the race of man was more populous, so they would be the ones actually inheriting the world. But the wolves and the ravens, they just automatically gravitated towards one another to like a huge extent. And the natural next step would be, mating, but that was outlawed. And that's what the Raven Queens have been researching, because it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I don't remember if there's any reference to it in the first book, but in the second book, at least, it points out that most wolves don't even have normal jobs, because all they do is put themselves at the beck and call of any raven that needs temporary protection. The only permanent position are the wolves protecting the royal line, but any wolf would temporarily protect any raven, and that's just what they want to do. And it doesn't make sense that these races would be killing each other so mindlessly.
Interesting. Do you have any literary idols or any mentors or just authors that you like?
I do have some that I like. When I was younger, I used to read a lot of Anne Rice. When it comes to vampire, that was a long time ago. And when it comes to vampires, there hasn't been anybody since Anne Rice. Everything since Anne Rice has been just junk for small children, which is frustrating. That's why I started writing about vampires too.
Like Twilight, that type of thing.
Was that?
Well, I mean,
Twilight
there's what is the name of that series? It's so
Blade.
There's so much sex. No, well, Blade Trinity, but no, it's
True Blood.
True Blood.
No, well, True Blood. I really like True Blood. Huh?
Was it the Vampire Diaries?
No,
Okay.
Anne something. It was her name was, I don't know, not Katie or Anne, but I don't remember. Oh, Blake. Like Amy Blake or Amelia Blake or something Blake, and she was apparently she was just like all these vampires who were similar to, like, they were trying to not be so evil.
Yeah.
They still drank blood, and they really, really, really apparently having sex with her made them, feel better.
Yeah. So now we're taking another deep dive into something that Richard doesn't really care for.
Honey.
Well, you mentioned Twilight. Yeah. Now, Twilight was complete garbage, but it made $1 gajillion. So after Twilight, every single thing that was created around vampires was geared towards 14-year-old girls, because that's what Twilight did, and they made $1 gajillion. So and then in the meantime, you've got adults that like vampires. They're like, well, there goes our entertainment. So that's when I started writing about vampires, but for adults.
Yeah. Right.
Did you like the Nosferatu film a couple years ago?
What's that?
The Nosferatu film?
I never saw that. I saw commercials for it, but I never saw it.
What about my favorite one? I can't remember the name of it, of course. You know, click, 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 click.
That's,
Click, click.
no. Oh, Kiss of the Vampire?
No, it wasn't Kiss of the Vampire. Mm-mm. It's one where this director hires an actual vampire to play the vampire, and at one point the director has to have this conversation. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to stop eating the crow.
You're right. It's not Kiss of the Vampire, but
No.
that's still the movie I was thinking of. It's
Right.
about Max von Schreck, who played Nosferatu, but it was actually Willem Dafoe playing the
Right,
actor
Willem
who was
Dafoe.
playing Nosferatu.
Right. Mhm.
Shadow of the Vampire. I
Shadow
think.
of the Van. Oh,
Yeah.
that was so good.
That was a good movie. Oh well.
If you haven't seen that,
It sounds
So
hilarious.
good.
I've never seen it.
so funny.
It is.
I think we made up a new game here, getting to the root of what it was, though.
Yeah, right. We're-
Yeah, well, that's a game that Philip and I play a lot.
Throw something in the middle of the floor and see
Honey,
if the
you
old
know
people can
that
figure out what it
actress
is.
from that thing,
Yeah.
that, you know,
Yeah.
and he a lot of the times he like snaps on it because he knows me for 32 years.
Yeah.
You know,
So what goes into a more sophisticated, adult-oriented vampire compared to Twilight, for instance?
Well, it's as simple as the fact that the vampires are incredibly old, and they act their age. They're the hook, for if you want to call it a hook, is that my vampires are married. That's why it's not for children, because children don't appreciate that. A more mature audience appreciates long-term relationships, marriage, stuff like that. It's a different kind of romance, but it's a romance that adults can appreciate. They returned at the same time. At the beginning of the first book, they're 900 years old. They've got incredible power and wealth, and they just want to be left alone. And that doesn't work out that way. And then the first two books are a prequel, a two-part prequel to kind of introduce the characters, learn a little bit about their origins. And then the main series takes place far into the future. It's going to be science fiction. And the first one of those books will be out in about 2 months.
Oh, interesting.
great.
So that's very topical.
See, and you're covering all the genres I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, during the science, and it's funny because by the end of the prequel, you get a whole lot of the answers. And then there's a cliffhanger for the main series. But then when the main series kicks off, they're not 900 years old anymore. They're over 2,000 years old. And their opinions have changed. Their personality has changed. They're not nice people. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're going to do it their way, and everybody else can just go screw themselves. They are completely set in their ways. It's hilarious because that's how I believe somebody of that age would act. You know, time plays a factor with people.
Yeah.
It's
I see
what's
some
your
parallels.
opinion of What We Do in the Shadows, the movie and or series?
I never saw the. I didn't know there was a movie. I never watched the series. I mean, I saw a couple of episodes. It's one of those things where it was a TV show that was written to win awards. It was not written for the audience. That's why they won a whole bunch of awards. It was kind of funny, but all of the best aspects of the show they stole from other shows that did it the first time. And it's just the hook was, oh, our characters are vampires. I mean, you can see right through that.
There's a married couple of vampires too.
I think I was able to tell that from the little bit that I did see. But again, it was a little shallow. It was written to hit all the right spots.
Where would a 2,000-year-old
touch
vampire go
parody.
for dental work? You know, like you'd really have to put somebody out because you might get your finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. Vampires is some people are endlessly fascinated with vampires. It's I'm more interested in the historical, like the Count or Vlad Tepes, the story of him, and it's all kind of intertwined and everything. But
Well, again, not to give anything away, but it's interesting that you said that.
what's that, Aaron?
There's some stuff in the prequel that you might like that.
Okay, cool.
But
Is
yeah,
that
people are interested.
What are you referring to, Phil?
Yeah. One time his castle was for sale, and there was like a real estate site that did a tour of the place. It's like you can buy, showed the dining hall and all this shit. It was kind of interesting.
Well, Dracula,
yeah, that's cool.
Dracula is by far the most well-known vampire and vampire fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So it would probably be really interesting if a couple of real vampires actually ran into him for real.
Mm.
I'm not going to spoil anything else, but there is so much fascination with vampires, but nobody, or I should say nobody, very rarely does anybody try to explain what they are. They're just written off as demons. So we'll just go with it. But now in Redemption, I tackle the demon thing. I got to tackle the religious aspect of vampires. So I get that out of the way in the first book. And then they realize that maybe they're not demons. So the first question they're going to ask is, well, then what the hell are we? Well, now I got to come up with a logical explanation now, because my characters are going to ask that question. So I need to be able to explain it. And I get some of that out of the way in Origins, but really they spend the entire series learning about what they are and how their bodies work and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Okay. And that theme of learning about of solving mysteries and learning about who you are and how things work seems to go through both of those book series.
Yes.
Not on purpose?
Well,
or is that just you?
It's on purpose in the sense that it's real. That's what happens when you have real characters. Real people want answers. And if the characters are intelligent, they're going to start asking questions. If you avoid those questions, then they're not real characters anymore. So in Wolves and Ravens, it's a more in general, like worldwide, what's going on with the races. In Eternal Nights, it's a lot more direct, like, well, what's inside my body? Like what organs do I have? Why does blood help me? Actual specific questions that I need to figure out how to answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let me ask you this: Did your health issues did they affect your writing?
Only in the sense that, well, in some ways it makes my writing easier because I'm crazy and these things are in my head all the time. Mm. But it also helps make the darker side more realistic, like the stress that the characters go through. Just because the protagonists are supposed to be the good guys doesn't mean they're immune to stress. And in Origins, the second part of the prequel for Eternal Nights, it's a meat grinder. It's brutal for the main characters. And as they go through that story, they get worse and worse. I mean, they're husband and wife. And as the story goes on, their language gets more foul. They start yelling at each other instead of talking to each other. Danielle, the wife, she has a full-blown psychotic break, and that covers a whole third of the book, where I have to detail this in a way that's realistic. And then, like in Wolves and Ravens, and later on in the books, when you have characters that are actually suicidal, I tackle that in a very detailed fashion, and it's real. It's not what people think you're supposed to say or what people think actually happens with victims and stuff. No, it's actually real. And I've talked to people who are actually kind of freaked out by it because of how realistic it is.
Mm.
So it's like real marriage.
Well, that's actually good then. Yeah.
Descents into yelling at each other.
I think another 30 years and there'll probably be knives involved when I do this.
Well, that's the relatable part. It's tough to relate to characters that old and that powerful, but they're married. And in the first book, there's not a whole lot of time for it because there's so many characters introduced. There's so much world building. But in the second book, they bicker constantly. They're just constantly at each other's throats verbally, to the extent like they're actually in enemy territory trying to find the bad guy. And at some point, the bad guy actually shows up. And literally, it's a line from the book. Will the two of you never shut up? It's like, you're in my territory. You should be coming up with plans because I'm stronger than both of you. But all you want to do is annoy each other.
Yeah.
Now, people who are married can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've we refer to ourselves as the Bickersons.
Yeah, it gets back and forth pretty. People in small doses, people find it amusing or engaging or something.
But since he lives with it, he doesn't have the humor.
He can wear thin on you after a while. But we do okay. We do. We come out of it smiling. So okay, so we're like getting towards our home stretch here. But I do have my philosophical question of the podcast, and I don't know how good this one is going to be, but if the world today was a fantasy world, would it best be described as dystopian, dark fantasy, historical fantasy, alternate reality, or some other genre? The current world.
If we're talking about
philosophy.
the entire world,
Yeah.
Sure.
I would say dark fantasy if we're covering the entire world.
I agree.
Dark fantasy. I think that I would
There
not
are-
disagree with that.
There are plenty of places in this world that are exercising the adult concepts that I approach in a lot of the books,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which is one of
Oh,
the reasons why I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, to me, that's the most fascinating. The most fascinating thing about literature in general is drawing parallels to reality. You know, being able to connect the dots. So,
Yeah.
But I would not disagree with that. Dark fantasy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it was indirect, but kind of like an indirect, I don't know, motive, you might say. Approaching all of these concepts in brutal detail helps the realism, but it also helps in some ways awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're dealing with multiple characters that have suicidal tendencies and you're seeing it in brutal detail in some indirect way, I'm hoping to increase awareness for these conditions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that's like with Law and Order, ripped from the headlines. You know, to me, that makes it a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Even if they don't always end the same way it did in, in real life, but still,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, something's on the tip of my tongue there. Couldn't think of it. Aaron, what
And
do you got?
I do
Aaron,
realize
let's give Aaron space
yeah.
for his thoughts.
Yeah,
and
say
reflections.
something. We haven't let you talk.
Something we don't do often enough.
Well,
Yeah.
I talk plenty. Have you read Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the alternative fiction?
Read no, saw the movie yes.
Oh, I forgot they made a movie.
Okay. Yeah. I wish I did.
It was so, but
Yeah.
interesting premise.
I thought I liked the movie because there's a million things wrong with it, but I liked the movie because at least it was interesting. It was something different. They actually explained silver, which is not done very often. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah, it was an interesting premise on its face, but it just kind of got old quickly in the book anyway for me.
Yeah. What was the movie with Nicolas Cage? Renfeld.
Oh,
that did not resonate with me. I thought that
I did not care for that at all.
Speaking of vampire movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That got on my nerves.
What about the Gary Oldman Dracula? Was that 2000?
Yeah, that was almost too goth. That was like too gothy. That was like way just over goth for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm thinking about the same movie. There are too many. I think I am, and
there's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, vampires appeal to people. Like we talked about, like the historical angle of the vampire. Like a lot of people romanticize the vampire, or and then there's the occult side of the vampire. There's so many different angles. I guess that's why it's appealing. It's got mass appeal. So
the part is when I was in the very beginning, when I was just trying to do stuff, most of the books that I sold were people who knew me, and most of them were people like they're buying the books because they're trying to help me out because they know me. They don't really care, and most of them are like, vampires aren't really my thing, but whatever, I'll take the book. They all loved it. Most of I can't tell anymore because there's so many sales. I don't know who's reading what. But in the beginning, more people who did not like vampires bought my book than people who did. And the people who didn't love vampires loved the book. Because the vampires are completely different than what you would. I went in a direction that I've never seen. Maybe somebody did, and I just didn't see it or read it, but I've never seen anybody go in the direction I'm going in. So if a person doesn't like vampires, they'll probably love mine because they're nothing like normal vampires.
All right. Well, we
Okay.
should mention our guest's name occasionally, and it's
Yeah.
Richard Spegal.
Mhm.
And
His books can be found at richardspegal.com.
correct. And the
Mhm.
Wolves and Ravens trilogy is one of the titles that we have been talking about. But we had talked
Mhm.
about, in addition to the vampire books as well, but
Mhm.
we do a thing called the Elite Eight mini bracket. And
It's one of those like Ginger or Marianne type things.
after our discussion here, I'm not sure that our mini bracket is going to be completely appropriate, but we might go ahead and slog through it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Okay. So what we do is we square. It's like if you know the NCAA tournament, this would be like the Elite Eight weekend where you got 8 basketball teams that are squaring off against each other to get down to a final. All right. So, Lisa, do you want to be the moderator?
Okay, but I still get to vote, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter versus Middle Earth, The Hobbit, Tolkien.
Tolkien. No contest.
Yep, Tolkien.
Yeah.
Me Tolkien too, because I love Led Zeppelin. So.
Okay. Okay. Pern, Dragon Riders of Pern and McCaffrey versus Narnia, C.S. Lewis.
I don't have any experience with the first one,
Okay.
but I did like Narnia, so I'll pick the first one just because.
I'm going with my beloved dragons.
All right, so it's
My Pern.
Yeah.
two.
Narnia
Aaron?
got real fucking preachy towards the end, man. I have read a few of the Anne McCaffreys, and they were pleasant enough. So I'll go with Anne. I'll go with, was it Pern?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hun?
So I'm gonna make it a sweep. I'm gonna go with Pern also.
Oh well, that's not a sweep. But...
I like the one with the sentient spaceships she wrote.
Yes. Those are good, and it's actually set in the same universe because the Dragon Riders of Pern went to a world, named it Pern, and created a society that was less technological.
I went and got her started.
Yeah, right.
I'm done. I'll be good.
Teasing.
Okay. Oz, Wizard of Oz versus Discworld, Terry Pratchett.
I don't know the second one.
I'm all in the tank for Discworld.
Yeah, me too. I liked Oz, but it's a little Discworld.
Discworld's brilliant. It's brilliant satire, especially after the first couple books.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
when he realizes that satire is the thing he's doing right, he really focuses on satire for the next 40 books.
Absolutely, and it's like what is it? The Gaspard, the dog that talks, the luggage that eats people, Rincewind the wizard, we few we men. I mean, it's just it's brilliant.
So
it's so funny. If you haven't read him, you gotta read him.
So you're saying he kind of found his niche.
Okay.
During that book, and then
Hun, you.
So, Richard, you're saying you went with Oz?
Yeah, he wasn't familiar with Discworld.
I don't know the other one. I'm not a big fan of Oz, but
well, I'm going to go with Oz.
What about the prison Oz?
Not that. I've never seen that.
No, this is
Simmons.
Yeah, this is the Wizard of Oz.
Although it's highly regarded, I don't know.
Prison of Oz.
I don't like I don't like emergency rooms, and I don't like prisons. So I don't like ER. And
that could be an interesting AI mashup.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go with Oz to tie it up. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but
okay.
I like Oz.
Okay. Are we gonna?
So
are we gonna
you, rock paper?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
You win.
All right.
It's
so
Oz.
Oz.
Okay. Discworld's better.
Down goes my number one.
Terry Pratchett with 3 T's.
I feel like an ass for because you two are really kind of hardcore sci-fi.
Right.
And I can really care less.
We're fantasy
but I just like
sci-fi, right?
Oz, so.
Okay. Now the last one, I may be the only one who's ever heard of the first part of this matchup.
Do you want to call an audible and use one of these others?
No.
Okay. All right.
No. I think we're gonna have the same problem with Xanth. Now, Dune.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna set aside the Belgariad and we're going to go with Dune versus Wonderland.
Dune.
Dune? Okay. Aaron?
Dune. Yeah, you're talking
Yeah.
about the
Mhm.
Lewis Carroll Wonderland or what?
Yes. And that is... No, that's not
So
Oz.
we got 2 for Dune, right?
Yes, 2 for Dune. And I'm Dune, he's Dune.
Dune while
Aaron?
Frank was alive.
Okay. Right. Yeah, well. Hud? What are you going?
I'm gonna go with Dune also,
Okay.
even though they almost blew it with that first movie, right? I mean,
So the alternates would be the Bulgariad by darn it, I can't remember who wrote that, and you got rid of the words. Okay, or Xanth, Piers Anthony.
yeah.
But
I
okay.
wouldn't know neither of those.
Okay. So and Xanth is somewhat of a more childlike Discworld. And Dune is kind of like the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek in that respect. And then Dune, or I mean the Bulgariad, I'm sending you the Bulgariad, Aaron. Trust me. I'm sending it. You'll love it. This is the first book my dad read in my lifetime. Until he read that book, I kind of wondered if he was illiterate because he didn't read. And as a child, I thought if you didn't read, it's because you couldn't.
All
Just
right, so
saying.
we're down to the final 4 here then.
Yes. Okay. The Hobbit versus Pern.
I don't know
The
the
Hobbit.
Okay.
Or Middle Earth, whatever we're.
Yeah. So that's 2 Middle Earth, hun.
Middle Earth.
Okay.
In fact, we'll call it Middle Earth instead of Hobbit.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Really, we're talking about the world, not the.
Yes. And Oz versus Dune.
Dune.
Okay. Dune.
The books, not the movies, right?
Yes.
Okay, Dune.
Although the second set of movies is actually at least better than the first.
You don't like the David Lynch?
Okay, yeah.
God, no.
Hit or miss.
Huh?
They keep wanting to remake stuff to make more money. Sometimes they get it good, sometimes they don't. But the books
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with Oz just to leave Aaron, the decision maker.
What are we, Dune versus Oz?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dune.
Okay, so
Mhm.
Dune. So now
Thought
we got
so.
a colossal matchup in this.
Middle Earth versus Dune.
No, that's not fair because they're completely different genres.
Well,
Yeah.
they're both fantasy with an evil protagonist, but the Elite Eight isn't fair.
Yeah, nobody said to lead
I'm going Middle Earth.
I'm going Dune, but I want it to be known that's only because I like science fiction over fantasy. If I have to make the choice, they're both fantastic.
Okay, hun.
Middle Earth.
Okay.
Will it be a tie or will it be?
Yes.
We
I
got
think it will.
Do your Rochambeau.
Okay.
Me, you again. Okay,
Yep.
It's easier this way.
Oh.
That's
rock and half a paper, half a rock.
I win.
Scissors and half a paper.
Okay. So Lisa won. So it's Dune.
Look, I have a deformed pinky. Okay. I can't straighten it. I mean, I physically can, but it hurts.
All right.
So,
Dune wins the championship.
I was born that way. It's a family finger. It's called the Bradley finger.
See,
I'm
now,
the only one in my generation with 2.
if I knew how the conversation was going to go, I might have chosen vampires or vampire characters.
I think this was an excellent Elite Eight, honey. It was a good choice.
Most recent episode of Have I Got News for You? They were ranking the top black vampire movies.
Oh, what one?
Well, it's Blackula.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I liked the one with Eddie Murphy. I thought that was funny.
Is Eddie Murphy a vampire?
He was a vampire, yeah. In a movie, yes.
I don't know.
I have absolutely no knowledge as to whether he's a vampire in real life.
I mean, how much?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a vampire in Brooklyn. I think it
Vampire
was.
in Brooklyn.
Yes.
That was Eddie Murphy.
I remember that. Yes.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was number 2 or 3.
Yeah, I that one, and honestly, I kind of like the more humorous vampire.
Blade was number 3, I think.
Okay. What was number
Because
2?
the funny vampire movies are funny. It's the ones that take themselves seriously and then
Right.
get everything wrong that are jokes and nobody likes them.
Right. Unless, of course, you enjoy that kind of thing.
I really like.
I
Star-
do have
15-year-old
I do
girl.
have one last question before we get to the business. How many bathrooms are there on the Death Star?
17.
That's the first.
I
That's
like it.
correct. That
That's
happens to
the
be
first time someone just said a number.
correct. Yeah.
Most
is a
people
prime number.
vacillate, and the most popular answer has been none.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make any
Darth
sense.
Vader needs
Yeah.
something to do.
I said one, I think, and I was picturing this long line of stormtroopers.
When you don't know, just give an answer and look confident.
Yeah.
I figured
Been
they
there,
go
done
in their
that.
suits.
Been there, done that.
Well, a lot of time people say none, and then they'll try to rationalize it because they had some sort of, designer thing in their suit that allowed them to evacuate without
Yeah.
having to go.
Yeah, but they're not in
Right,
suits. They're not in suits
Yeah.
every minute of every day forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. It
that's
just
true.
seems that way in the movies.
Well, all right. This has been a blast. So,
Mhm.
Richard,
Aren't you a little
how
short
can
for a
people find your
stormtrooper?
So, how can people find your work, Richard?
Well, everything's on Amazon, but I do recommend people go to the website, richardspiegel.com, because there's an amazing amount of content there. Every book has a movie, video style trailer. There's behind the scenes trailers, things like that. My Instagram is @Richard.
Oh, love those, by the way.
Oh, you saw them all?
Even if you don't get the books, watch the trailers.
Yeah, I meant to
Mhm.
talk about that a little bit. So,
Yeah, that was one of our talking
we
points.
did like those. We did like those trailers. They were
Yeah.
Yeah, the publisher.
And also, I don't like to mispronounce the names of the characters. So
Well, the publisher went above
when I
and
can avoid
beyond.
it.
I used to have my own website and I thought it was good, but seeing what the publisher made, my website was garbage. So I deleted that. And they did a phenomenal job. Everything on my Instagram, I basically just funnel from the website. The website's really the place to go.
And that's
Mhm.
Spegal,
Yeah,
Spegal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right. Well,
Okay.
it's been a fun hour, Richard. We really,
Yep.
really enjoyed it. And,
Nice to meet you.
Love to have you on, maybe to talk about vampires.
Yeah.
Since we talked about ravens so much.
And the rest of the
Ravens
trilogy.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah, why
Good luck
Yeah.
with all your future endeavors.
By then, I will have read the rest of them. Oh, actually, one last question. Audio, because I couldn't find it in audio.
Oh,
And I mostly listen to my books now because I work full time, and then afterwards I have other stuff to do.
That might be something I do in the future, but
Okay.
if I do it, I'm going to do it right, and that's really expensive.
Yeah.
you gotta
Okay.
hire
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman or
Like,
In a couple of years, I'll be available.
because I would need to have all different people for all different characters. Like I would want it to
Okay,
be
so you
done.
don't want just someone to read it. You want it to be.
I want it to be done
Yeah.
perfectly, and those people are probably going to want to get paid.
Yeah.
Would you allow? Would you be open to like a cartoon version of your
Are you gonna do that?
a comic? Cartoon.
Are you gonna draw this, Lisa?
No, but I know someone who might be able to.
I wouldn't be against it only because there are plenty of cartoons that are MA rated, so I
Right.
know it can be done. And
Mhm.
actually, at the moment, Eternal Nights, there's a company that's in the process of pitching it as a streaming series.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wolves and Ravens, they're still trying to pick. They're still trying to pitch for movies, which I
Mhm.
disagree with. I think streaming services are the way to go these days.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. All right. Well, you
Mhm.
have it. I'll try this
Yeah.
again.
We got about 40 seconds, 35 seconds left.
We've
Mhm.
had a great time.
Mhm.
We wish you the best
Squirrel.
of luck moving forward, all your projects, and have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having me.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody.
You know I'm our podcast chaos.